that's really what I want to address today, because it is our inherent right to be in tune and to be in harmony and to make our lives a symphony and to play beautiful music throughout every aspect of our lives. And there's just something that magical that happens when we do. As Dottie was saying, well, she didn't quite say it this way, but I'm a recovered corporaholic. 19 years in the high-tech semiconductor business, bought into the whole model, started entry level, ascend your way up to the top of the ladder, and you will find yourself in a state of nirvana, bliss, and joy. And I bought into that, right? And over 19 years, started entry level. I don't know how many years later, there I am, CEO of a multi-million-dollar business. I had started in my garage. I bought hook, line, sinker into this model that was presented to me. And I'm like kind of going, wait a second. Here I am at the top of the rung on the ladder here, and why is it that I'm anything but happy, anything but content, anything but healthy, anything but satisfied in my life experience? And I assume most of you are married or have a significant other, right? Isn't it amazing how our significant others can communicate so much with just a look? And my wife, Dr. Lara, is a master at this. She's got the, I'm going to hit you with some truth look, because us men, we need to be hit with truth quite a bit. And then there's the other look, I don't give a damn what you're saying look, which I might maybe see now maybe once every 2 years or so. Okay, maybe a little bit more often than that, but that's another story for another time. We can do the lecture on denial later this afternoon. So there I come home. There's my wife in the hallway. She's got the look. I knew she was going to hit me with some truth. And she just got 6 inches in my face and just said, you know what, I don't care how much money you're making. I look in your eyes and you're dead. When are you going to have the courage to go for the dream? And like any good husband, of course, I wanted to immediately prove her wrong and debate. But like any good husband, you start realizing, what's the point? Because after over 11 years of marriage now, I'm definitely seeing a trend. It is not in my favor. So at some point, you just go, yes, dear, and just smile and say, she's right again. Why does that happen that way? So literally, I took it to heart because she was right. And the next week, I went and told my partners and began what Joseph Campbell so eloquently calls the hero's journey, to go find myself, my life purpose. Little did I know what I was embarking upon. So I go off, because I had this dream of becoming this motivational speaker guy, kind of like a Tony Robbins with a Latin flair thing. And this was what I was going to go do. I was so excited. And I embark upon it, and you know what? When you go pursue your life purpose and your calling, and you start waking up to the truth of who and what you are, life is going to throw so many interesting curveballs at you and take you down pathways you would have never thought you would have gone down. So on my journey, probably 3 years into my journey, I get connected to some scientists and start learning about energy and quantum physics, and literally over the course of 10 years since leaving the corporate world, have remapped all my perceptions about life and about the world that we live in, about who and what we are. And what I realize is that we are all truly magnificent expressions of life, of a field of energy that penetrates and permeates everything in this universe. And you think to yourself, well, how are we raised in school, right? That we're solid bone, muscle, blood, and all that good stuff, right? Isn't that what we're taught? And what are bone and muscle made of? Made of cells, right? What are cells made of? Okay, now we're getting down to molecules. What are molecules made of? Atoms. Well, guess what? They look inside an atom and there's nothing there. Energy vibrating at different frequencies. You are energetic. We are all energy vibrating at different frequencies. We're energetic expressions of life. Now, this is totally contrary to how we've been brought up, and we're taught to believe what we experience through our senses is the scope of reality. No, it's not. What you experience through your senses is just a minute aspect of all that's available. We were talking about plugging in during the yoga process to that higher aspect of who, what we are. That is your true nature. That is your true essence. Each and every one of you is plugged into the same energy that set this beautiful world in motion. Put the stars up in the sky, the planets around the sun. We're all expressions of that. And that energy, that ability is within each and every one of us to masterfully be the composer of our life experience. And we start learning and realizing, wow, maybe life's not exactly the way I was taught. We were taught that, Diet Coke was good to drink. Certain foods, if you're in a hurry, go to the fast food place. Yeah, it's food, right? But then you start waking up. And the reason why I'm laughing is, I laugh, because things have changed immensely at my house and what it is that we eat. Fermented what? Green stuff this. Since my wife has been involved with this group, gluten, no gluten, life has completely changed. They have not come up with a good tortilla yet that doesn't have gluten in it. Okay, I just want to let you know that. Somebody needs to work on that because I like tortillas, okay? It's that part of that Latin thing in me. But it's a work in process. But so we're unfolding and we're learning and we're expanding and we're beginning to challenge the reality that's been imposed upon us. And we start to realize that what we believe, our thoughts, our beliefs, and our perceptions are what shape and shift our experience and ultimately shape and shift our health. But you are expressions of this field of energy. So we hear that, we say that. I've been exposed to this stuff for years, and I ask the question because I do a lot of coaching, I do a lot of work with people in personal development and tapping into their power and unleashing the magnificence of who and what they are. But why is it, if we are truly expressions of this, why is it that we are in a state of disharmony? Why do some of us go through life trying to play music, and this is what our lives sound like? Well, we were talking about energy, right? Well, right now in our modern day world, last count I heard, we are exposed to over 80,000 man-made chemicals in our air, food, and water. In addition to all these wonderful things that are in our air, food, and water, we all have the latest little, ever see one of these? iPhone, iPad, droid this, droid that, TV, fluorescent lights, all these electrical things in our environment, in our lives that are producing electromagnetic fields. And what we have literally done is we've literally put ourselves out of tune with this field of energy, resulting in what? Stress, physical disharmony, compromised energy, lower levels of consciousness. So on my journey, I get connected to a gentleman who's a former consultant from NASA, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Jones. I like to call him Doc. Character and a half, quite, anybody that's got a degree in biomolecular science, is a quantum physicist, and has been working with energy, with astronauts, going out into space and all these different things. These guys operate on a different wavelength. So I get connected to him. Actually, one night I'm playing at this event, and this woman comes up to me after I'm done playing, and she goes, "Oh my gosh," she goes, I hear these tones in your music. And I'm looking at her. My first thought is, this lady, she's going to get weird. This one, I could just tell. She's one of these froofy, new agey ones, and I'm like kind of going, oh boy. And then she comes right up to me. She goes, "And nobody can hear the tones but me." And I'm like thinking in my head, yeah. And I'm like, this is my response to her. I say, you know what? I heard some tones too back in the 80s. Listening to Pink Floyd, hanging out with my buddies. We used to watch the Lava Lamp, and listen to Pink Floyd, That's all the details I'm going to go into. But yeah, I heard some tones too. And she goes, "No, I'm serious. Let me get a CD. I know these scientists." I'm like giving her a CD. Here, maybe she'll go away. She won't bother me anymore. Didn't think anything more of it. Quickly just processed that right out of my belief systems. Went home. Lara asked me, "How was your event?" "Oh, it was just fine. Didn't have to share the experience about the kooky lady and all this stuff." So I'm sitting at home. Phone rings like a few weeks later, and it's Dr. Jones. "Mark, man, oh my gosh, we are so excited." I go, "Well, what's up, Doc?" He said, "Well, I got your CD. We've been doing some testing with it, some preliminary testing." We discovered frequencies in your music. At this point, I'm starting to glaze over in my eyes, Okay. He goes, bring your guitar to this meeting. I'm doing this lecture. You've got to be there. So I'm bringing my guitar, thinking I'm going to play during donut time. Okay? Little did I know. But what I witnessed that day started to change my perceptions of the world that we live in, where I'm not just solid bone and muscle, and that everything I experience through my senses is the scope of reality. Because it's not. Once again, we're energy vibrating at different frequencies. Your body is energy. She was talking about chakras, energy systems within the body. The Chinese have been working with acupressure points for thousands of years and having tremendous impacts upon people's health and well-being. By what? By working with their energy. So I arrive at this lecture, and they're talking about the 80,000 man-made chemicals in our air, food, and water, and cell phones, and electromagnetic fields. But where it really started getting interesting was where they have these people up on stage, and they're demonstrating through range of motion, flexibility, applied kinesiology tests, strength testing, balance testing, and I see how things we use every day are compromising our strength and our levels of consciousness right there in front of my eyes. Absolutely blown away. But what really started kind of pushing my buttons was they said, Mark, halfway through the program, come up here and start playing your music. So I just come up, okay, not really sure what to experience, and I just start playing. It's a simple little piece. Start playing, I see people's physical energy shift instantly in front of my eyes. I've never seen anything like it. I'm like going, what the heck is this? Quite honestly, it's kind of freaking me out. What is going on here? This was way beyond my comfort zone. So I'm kind of going, wow, this is really interesting stuff here. So I'm playing, and I see all these physical shifts taking place in people's energy. Once again, the little red light comes on in my head, does not compute. I go home, pretending it didn't exist. There's Lara going, how was your night? Oh, it was interesting. Yeah, it was really interesting. Good night. And that was it. But a few weeks later, I get a call from Dr. Jones. Mark, oh, man. I'm going, oh, man, he's after me. He goes, I'm so excited. He goes, I want to share what we've come up with. We did some preliminary brain mapping. He said, when your music plays, it actually shifts the brain into a state that we had identified with athletes in the peak performance zone. I'm going, okay, that's interesting. He said, then also, finally, he says, when the music plays, on a physical level, people experience an instant increase in their strength, their flexibility, their endurance, their coordination, and balance. He said, when an organism is in harmony with that field of energy that I was talking about earlier, you're going to have an instant increase in strength, flexibility, endurance, coordination, and balance. I said, okay, Doc, that's interesting. What does this all mean? He said, well, thirdly, and most importantly, when people are being exposed to energy interrupters in the environment, they're maintaining that state. He said, your music has the ability to lift people above the static and noise in our modern day world so that we can open up to higher levels of health, open up to higher levels of awareness, our consciousness. He said, this is an amazing tool. By this time, I'm completely okay. He goes, and we want to buy 1,000 CDs from you and start selling them. I said, well, that I can relate to, Doc. I'm not so sure about the other stuff, but if you want to buy 1,000 CDs from me, I'll be more than happy to sell them to you. But little did I know that this was going to embark me upon a most amazing journey of getting an understanding about life, getting an understanding of how we are impacted by things in our environment. You are an energy processor. When you're processing food at a cellular level, guess what it's converting it into? Light, energy. Dr. Bruce Lipton comes out with this book a number of years ago called The Biology of Belief. Once again, challenging the very models of what we've been taught about health and wellness. This guy's taking nucleuses out of cells because the nucleus is the brain of the cell, right? The cell should die. Guess what? It doesn't, because the nucleus is not the brain of the cell. It's actually the external part of the cell. And these cells have little doors in them that process information, that do all the miraculous things that take place in your body. So guess what? GMO, aspartame, all these wonderful little things, guess what they all mess with? the processing of information in your cells. That's why you experience physical disharmony when you're being exposed to this. So I have to share this story about Dottie. I'm plugging Moms in Charge, which after earlier today where you all stood up and sat down should be man in charge, but we'll have that debate later, okay? But I'm talking about Moms in Charge at our new neighbor's house and having dinner, and a very nice conversation, and their father-in-law was there. And all of a sudden, he's real quiet when I'm talking about organic and stuff. Ends up, he was a retiree from Monsanto and a biochemical engineer or whatever. So I said, why are you so quiet? He goes, well, I'm a retiree from Monsanto. And I've been tainted, and I said, oh, you work for the evil empire. And of course, he's retired now. The guy's 80 years old, and here's the thing that I walked away with, was that he really believed he was doing good work and finding a way to engineer and feed the world. And I'm just like looking at him, and we had this conversation. He got fired up a little bit, and I fired up back at him. And he was a very nice man. And I said, it was a pleasure to meet you. It's nice to know that not everybody within Monsanto wears Darth Vader mask and, runs around and spreading the dark empire. But it opens up the fact, once again, here's a guy doing the frontline work there, and he thinks he's doing good work in the world. It was just really interesting. But once again, these things are interrupting how it is that we process energy and information. Because once again, we need to bring ourselves back in tune, back in harmony. So here's the question. We start drinking green shakes and all these different things. Why is it that we feel better? Why is it that we actually start operating and we notice things in our energy, in our face, in our complexion, how it is that we feel energetically? Because you're actually feeding better quality foods and processing higher levels of information within your body structures. You are not solid mass, you are energy. So now it's one thing to talk about this, it's another thing to actually demonstrate. So who wants to be a demonstratee? Come on up. The lady in green. Let's give her a hand. All right. I'm tangled here. There, that'll work. Come on up. Don't hide. Okay, so, all right, we'll work with that. We got kind of, what's your name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer. So Jennifer is going to be our test subject today. And I'm just going to show a couple little tests to kind of demonstrate using applied kinesiology. Does anyone here not know what applied kinesiology is? Okay, so you all know? Okay, you don't know? Okay, so your body is connected once again to this infinite wisdom. It's plugged into a computer. It knows what's good for it. It knows what's not good for it. When your body's exposed to things that aren't good for it, it goes into a weakened state. It's really quite an amazing process through arm testing. You've probably seen this. You can go in and get tested if you're allergic or something's good for you. You'll go in a weakened state. It's really quite amazing. And when you're exposed to positive things like good foods, good nutrition, you stay strong. So it's really kind of a cool way to go and test things if you learn how to perform it correctly. So we're going to do a couple demonstrations here to demonstrate what's good and what's not good. So first what we're going to do is we're going to check your balance. Have you had any alcoholic beverages this morning? No. No, okay, good. Just checking to make sure. Dandy blend. Okay, well, you're not even jacked up on dandy blend. There's no caffeine around here, man, so we're good. So we're going to do a little balance test. I did this demonstration at the last event in the montage, but it's always kind of fun. So we're going to see how you're balanced. You game? Okay, so what I want you to do is stand up here, put your feet and toes together all the way, and I want you to put your arms to the side, grab my fist. So I'm going to apply downward pressure in your hand. Okay. I want you to stay stiff. Don't let me bend or tip you. Okay? Ready? Be strong. Ooh, she's actually pretty strong. Don't mess with her, okay? So very good, but it was still could get her to tip over. So now, what happens if you were to null and void? Okay, there's a little music playing. Right now, we're being exposed to Wi-Fi, all these different things in our environment. Let's see what happens now with the music playing. So, feet and toes all the way together. Got my fist. Ready? Ready? Yeah. Okay, be strong. So now, okay, she's not tipping over. And And I know what she's thinking. She's like, oh, man, I just flexed my muscles, tightened up, crunched my ab and my core. I did yoga earlier this morning. My core's on fire right now, so we're going to see what happens, okay? Ready? Be strong. Okay, we can get her to go. So pretty easy to tip over. So interesting. So we're going to do another quick little demonstration. I want you to point your arm at my chest. Face that way. Okay. Up. So I'm going to push down while you push up. Are you ready?
Yep.
Be strong. Okay, yeah, definitely do not mess with her. So I know you've all seen these before. So we're going to repeat the test this time and see what happens. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Be strong. Okay, it's really quite easy to get her arm to break and go down. This is part of applied kinesiology. You're exposed to things that are disharmonious energetically. You're going to go into a weakened state. Now, it's going to be really hard for me to do this and play music. Does anybody have a cell phone I can borrow?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So now we're going to repeat with music playing. Nice picture. Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
Be strong. So now she is solid as can be, even with the cell phone exposed in her field. Thank you. So let's give her a hand for Be My Test. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now, they gave me a board, but they didn't give me any pens. So that's okay. I'm going to have you use your imagination. I want you to imagine, remember those old FM radio dials? The ones that had 88.5 on this end and 108 on the other, and you used to have to slide it back and forth. I used to have one of those with my 8-track tape player, so I'm really dating myself now. So if you think about it, we're tuned into a certain frequency bandwidth at 88.5, okay, just for an example standpoint. Everything, all these chemicals, everything produces an electro vibration. In essence, a resonance, a frequency. And it's all being transmitted at 88.5. And where do we live? Right? 88.5. So we're exposed to these different things. They make us go weak. What if we were able to slide you from 88.5 to 94.7, the wave or whatever? Okay, just as an example. What if we were able to move you up the radio dial? So this is what happened in that demonstration. See, she was compromised by the cell phone, compromised by things in her environment. Therefore, thank you very much. I was able to tip her over. And what in essence happened was I was able to slide her from 88.5 to a higher frequency bandwidth where she's no longer receiving the transmissions of things in the environment. Does that make sense? So let me kind of go back to this. As I was mentioning, the good old radio dial. I call it the cosmic radio dial, just for fun's sake, and it's kind of a cool thing. And we were playing the Guitar Man earlier. So, we literally operate within a bandwidth of energy, okay? Everything's being transmitted. Right now, how many Wi-Fis are going through us? Cell phone signals, chemicals in this environment. I wonder if asbestos was used in this building, the chemicals that they use to clean the carpets, all these things that we're being exposed to right now. And all of it's transmitting in this particular wavelength. What if you're actually able to move yourself up the dial and tune into a different frequency wavelength? You're no longer going to receive what's being transmitted at this level. Does that make sense? So what happens when you start eating Vitality Greens and drinking hemp oil, which, by the way, I have hemp oil with me and Vitality Greens and all kinds of cool stuff for my shake later today. Aren't you proud of me? Yeah. See, there's hope for us men, huh? You engage in those things, and what you're going to start doing is start moving up the dial. That's why you feel better. Does that make sense? So here's my own personal thought. We're on this, we talk about waking up and humanity jumping to new levels. And I like to use the word evolution, but I'm not talking about physical evolution. I'm talking about consciousness evolution. We're moving up this dial. But in order for us to do it, we have to break beyond the vibrational barriers that we're exposed to in our modern day world. Because right now, your signal is being jammed. And that's why you have literally put yourself in a perpetual state of stress, and you've gotten so used to it, you don't even know you're in it. Not until you go to Iowa for a week and come back. I know that from my own experience. That's where my mother-in-law lives. and I come back, and you feel the difference. I can go to Palm Springs and come back to Orange County, and I feel the difference energetically wise. Because right now you're being jammed. Have you ever been on the edge of town, listening to your favorite Journey song, right? And you're starting to get static in the signal, right? That's what we live in 24/7. We've got static. Guess what? You are communicating to the quantum field all the time, and you are receiving information from the field all the time. That's your intuition. That's your creativity. Those are those aspects that come. They've been cutting open up the head and looking for the mind, and the mind's not in the brain. The mind actually exists in energy. I'm getting out there now, but if you start delving into quantum physics and energy, it really does get out there. And so what we want to do is we want to true up that connection by eating better quality foods, by getting rid of aspartame, all these different things, and by harmonizing your energy. Once again, when you are in tune, you're going to start feeling better and create higher levels of health. So I launched into this whole thing, not really knowing what I was getting myself into, and I started getting testimonials from people. My son's got ADD, he's grumpy, crabby kid every morning. I played your music. He's actually giving me kisses and love on the way going to school. Not natural behavior for him in the morning. Our children are so sensitive to this stuff being transmitted in our environment. See, we've been around the block a few times, so we've gotten used to it. But your kids aren't. They're still young. They're still sensitive. I cringe every time I see young children who have cell phones. In Europe, man, they're posting stuff all over the place. Do not have your children use cell phones. The brain is still developing. Doc Jones used to tell me, he said, Mark, do you ever wonder why a baby's head is open on top when it's first born? I said, well, yeah, to, come out like a cone head so they could squeeze through the canal, right? He said, no. He goes, that child is downloading a tremendous amount of information, telling it how to grow, unfold, develop its brain. And I had never heard any of that in science when I grew up. And I'm like going, you know what, that is very intriguing. But this is what we start to open up to. We are energetic beings. You get your energy in harmony and in tune, and amazing things can shift and take place. Does that make sense? Yes. All right, I have no idea how much time I have because my timer never started timing on me. So I assume Dottie will just come up here with her big cane and tell me to get off stage when the time is right, right? Maybe I was supposed to push the button myself. I have how many minutes? 5 minutes. Thank you. There's a man in charge there in the back. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So I was really quite skeptical about this the first time I heard about it, but I started seeing things in my own experience. My daughter was 4 years old, birthday party. Do you know what it's like having a room of 20 fourth graders, girls in a room at a birthday party, probably getting jacked up on gluten and sugar at that particular point in time? It's rather disharmonious. So I got this thing, I'm going to put on this music and see what happens, because it was getting hectic. I was like, oh, man, 2 of them can drive me crazy, and no less a room of 20 of them. So I put on this music, and all of a sudden, whoosh, it shifted the whole energy in the room. And they're all of a sudden playing nice and quiet. I'm like, man, you know what? This should be illegal, man. This is some good stuff here. And I have another confession to make. I have a 5-year-old little girl, Isabella, high-pack energy. I tell you, we're going to be having some words when she gets older. But she was sleeping through the night after 12 days being born, with music playing in the environment, because she wasn't being exposed to all the things that we're being exposed to on the energetic level. So how far can I push the barrier today? Can I push your belief structures a little bit? Yeah. Okay, good. So I know you all came in here with perceptions and beliefs about the way that life is, right? I'm going to ask you to suspend them just for the rest of my talk here. And you can pick them up on the way out the door. So as I started to evolve and doing this work, I've been coaching people now. I actually compose music to help people shift past the most potent of all the energy interrupters, which are the limiting thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions that we've ingrained into the operating system softwares of our mind, which ultimately filter your experience and filter reality.